Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to Casual Friday. My name is Shawn W, and thank you for joining me today on this, the third to last Casual Friday, the third to last Friday of 2023. Hope your holiday season is going well. If you celebrate, if you don't, I hope your December is going well. And as you can see, if you're watching on YouTube, it's just the two of us today. Unfortunately, well, not unfortunately, but XJ had to travel, so he couldn't attend. He couldn't be here today. So it's just me and my partner in crime from what's that show that we do on playback called again? Study Hall.
There we go.
I'm on a roll. My partner in Study Hall crime, Mensa Smith. Mensa, how are the vibes?
The vibes are probably the worst they've been all season on a lot of different fronts. I woke up this morning and silly me for not expecting this, but it was the RJ Barrett Armageddon all over Twitter. It was like, it was really rough. I think that, yeah, RJ deserves a ton of smoke, but I don't think that he is the core of why the vibes are so terrible. There's so many things went wrong if you're listening to this on a Wednesday night where the Knicks lost to the Utah Jazz in Utah. So many things went wrong. It was like a culmination of issues, and we're starting to this feels like a turning point in the season, specifically because we have this next 10 game stretch. All 10 of these teams are above 500. And most of those games are on the road. We got 2 against the Bucks back to back at home, but it's not going to be an easy stretch. And I think we're going to learn a lot about this team. But as of right now, the vibes are pretty poor. They're in the toilet at this point.
I was listening to the post game show yesterday, and you had said that, like, there should have been back to back wins, and instead of being 14-9, we're 13-10, and it reminded me of last year when we were 10-13 and the vibes were in the toilet. So it's amazing how we are.
Wow. The numbers are, yeah.
Yeah. Like, we are 3 games better in the loss column, in the win column, 3 games better in the loss column than last year at this time. But the vibes are very, very similar to where they were last year. And I saw your tweet, and for those who may not have missed it, I'm going to read it. It said, everyone other than DDV, Randall, and IQ had a poor performance last night, but all the smoke today is for RJ Barrett. On the post game, we were debating whether or not this was Brunson's worst game as a Knick, but the topic today is RJ Barrett. Okay, I guess. So what I would ask you is, do you feel as if RJ was, because you're right, like, just about everyone was not good yesterday. Do you feel as if the smoke was, why do you feel the smoke was unproportionately directed towards RJ? And do you feel that he should have, and if you're going to do blame pie, do you think that his slice of blame was commensurate to his play last night?
So RJ Barrett last night was 3 for 16 from the floor. I think he had like 4 rebounds or 5 rebounds and 2 assists. Wasn't a great game from RJ. I think it ended with 9, 5, and 2. The defense was up and down for most of the game, couldn't hit a shot, and was forcing. It was maybe the worst we've seen RJ all season. So yeah, he was really terrible. He was bad. However, I don't think that, and when you're as bad as he was in a 4-point loss, it's easy to point to him and say, this is the reason we lost. However, when I think about how the New York Knicks win basketball games and how they have won in the Jalen Brunson era, it's been not necessarily having the most efficient offense. The EFG for this team is trended in the bottom 10 since Jalen Brunson's been here. Not Jalen Brunson's fault, but the way we built the team around him. We are a team that wins the rebounding battle. We win the possession battle. We take more shots than the other team takes. That wasn't the case last night. And so my biggest slice of the blame pie doesn't necessarily go to anybody on the team, but it's the absence of Mitchell Robinson, because without him, we are losing an identity. We don't have Mitchell Robinson for the next 2.5 months. Quentin Grimes is no longer in the starting lineup. And those 2 guys there were the linchpin of our defense. And Mitchell Robinson, quiet as is kept, has been the linchpin of our offense. He gives us the possessions, and he's been trending before the injury. He was kind of trending down. He got off to a historically great start. So to expect him to have that season that he was having, which was basically the greatest offensive rebounding season in basketball, like history, he was doing so well. For us to expect that to have continued would have been foolhardy. But to lose the rebounding battle, I think we lost it by 7. And then we allowed a team in the Utah Jazz, which is the 26th ranked offense in the NBA. So a bottom 5 offense. We allowed them to pace at, I think their offensive rating last night was like 115.8. They are around 110. So they outperform their offense. And for me, that's an issue because this is now, in my opinion, the 4th game in a row that the New York Knicks have allowed a team to just play excellent basketball on the offensive end by their own standard, right? Like 117 points isn't a great game in today's NBA, but it is for the Utah Jazz. We allowed the Toronto Raptors to score 130. We got blitzed by the Boston Celtics, and we got smoked by the Milwaukee Bucks. And all of it is these teams are shooting, I think the worst that any of those teams shot was 38% from 3-point range over the past 4 games. That's more concerning for me than RJ Barrett's like bad performance because yes, it is year 5. Yes, last night was his 289th regular season basketball game as the New York Knicks. So we have basically, if you're counting, not even basically, if you're counting the playoffs and if you're counting the regular season, we have a 300 game sample size of RJ Barrett as a Knick. And those 300 games will tell you RJ Barrett is bad at basketball. That's something that if you've been paying attention, you just kind of know. And it's easy to get upset because, again, when RJ Barrett is bad, to the eye, it's terrible. But if you're asking me what the most concerning trends are, it's Jalen Brunson. And this is a good transition because we just spoke about how bad RJ Barrett has been. Jalen Brunson is shooting a worse percentage from the free throw stripe than RJ Barrett. RJ is at around 83. He's at 78. Jalen Brunson misses 5 free throws in a game that we lose by 4 points. The Knicks missed 10 free throws last night. That's concerning. These are the little margin things that the Knicks have built themselves on. The Knicks need to shoot better from the free throw line. The Knicks last night, 9 for 39 from the 3-point line. Like, yeah, RJ Barrett was 0 for 7. Don't get me wrong, but Brunson was 0 for 6, right? You got Josh Hart 0 for 4. Quentin Grimes, I think another 0 for 4. The guys just weren't shooting well. The team went into Utah, which is a place where we all time, I believe, are 16-38. We do not win in Utah, right? So to me, it was a perfect storm of bad events. And there was, and I don't want to forget this. Last night, Immanuel Quickley was the 8th man. That's ridiculous. I understand that Jericho Sims is a spot starter, but come on now. Like, what are we doing at this point where Jericho Sims is in the starting lineup? Then you have Isaiah Hartenstein coming in, getting more minutes than Immanuel Quickley. And you have Josh Hart coming in, getting more minutes than Immanuel Quickley. Immanuel Quickley cannot be playing 18 minutes a game. Immanuel Quickley, at this point in his career, is worthy of getting anywhere between 30 and 35 minutes, 30 to 34. Let's be reasonable. Let's say for a 6-man, maybe 31 minutes is where he needs to be. He's averaging 4 minutes, right? So quick math, 7 is about a third of 24. It's a little off, but yeah. He's getting around 30%. I would assume that he's getting 30% less of the minutes that he should be getting for a player of his caliber. These are things that are season-long trends that are not going in our direction. And I understand that RJ Barrett being bad is something that we want to harp on as a team, but we can give Quickley more minutes. We can be a better defensive team. Rebounding is a big part of our identity, and it looks like over the next 2.5 months, we're not going to have that to rely on. So while it is rational while understanding all of these things, that we're not going to have the rebounding, Quickley can get more minutes, the guys who are playing need to make more value of their minutes. And RJ Barrett cannot have a game where he's shooting 3 for 16. And again, this is not I'm coming to RJ Barrett's defense. I mean, it kind of is, but it's not. That's not the point of. I gotta be honest, and that's not the point of why I'm so frustrated with the way we're looking at things. Is because we could have sat down RJ Barrett last night And let's say Josh Hart gets more minutes. Let's say DDV gets more minutes. Quickley still needs to play more. We still need to rebound better. Julius Randle has 12 rebounds in a game last night, but we're still losing the rebounding battle. So it's like it's this is something that XJ and Jeff over at the Hot Hand Theory talk about a lot, that just because a guy individually gets good counting numbers as a rebounder, is he actually affecting team rebounding? These are the things that we relied on Mitchell Robinson for. These are the defense is something that we've relied on Quentin Grimes for. And with Quentin Grimes being reduced in his role, and with Mitchell Robinson being out for the next 2.5 months, I think those are the topics that are going to truly define what this next stretch run is going to be like for the Knicks, other than RJ Barrett's inconsistencies, because he's been inconsistent his entire career. I know we're frustrated. I know we're at a point where it's like, listen, you need to shit or get off the pot. And I agree with that. I tweeted after the one tweet that went up on Twitter. I tweeted after, like, listen, RJ Barrett, in my opinion, has 10 more games to get it together. And it's going to be a rough 10 games. But if he's not playing well by the new year, the same way we benched Quentin Grimes is the same way RJ Barrett's going to get benched for a guy like Josh Hart. It's going to happen. We're already bringing in Taj Gibson. The Knicks will make moves. We gave Quentin Grimes about 20 games. RJ Barrett's probably going to get 30, and then people are going to be like, okay, we've seen enough. This kid's had 4.5 seasons at this point. He's not playing well. We need to move forward because he's holding the team back. And there's no argument against it at this point. Since he's come back from the migraine, he shot terrible. Now, over the course of the season, he's at 35% from three and 83% from a free throw line, and the defense has been consistent. So there are numbers for you to cling to if you so choose to cling to those numbers. However, reality is setting in very quickly for RJ Barrett, and he needs to get it together. But just to put a button on this all, even though RJ Barrett is who a lot of people expected him to be, and personally, I'm let down by him, I'm very disappointed, that's not going to define this season. The New York Knicks have not been built around RJ Barrett. They're built around rebounding the basketball and playing defense. We are not doing either of those two, and that's been the case since before last night. It's been the case for about a week and some change now, and we need to see that change before this team can take a step forward and actually be a team that maybe hosts a playoff round or is a playoff team instead of a play-in team. Those two things, in my estimation, of course, with Immanuel Quickley getting more minutes, are more important than where RJ Barrett is currently in his career.
So allow me to play devil's advocate, even though everything you said is spot on. Everything. I think there's one thing that you said just now when you said the team is something along the lines of the team is relying on you, for us to do well, you have to play well. And I think what you're seeing on the timeline is 4.5 years of frustration. And I'm gonna exclude the people that say he sucks and he's no good, and insert young player here who shoots 32% from three is better. I'm not talking about those people. I'm talking about, like, obviously you have the RJ Hive, but then you have the people in the middle, and the people who overall support the guy. I think Jalen Brunson was terrible yesterday, but as I say with Julius Randle, like, Julius catches more stuff because he has less political capital. He has less social capital, I should say. And Jalen Brunson has the highest Q. I believe the highest Q rated team is Isaiah Hartenstein, because I don't know anybody who has a problem with him. But after that, it's clear, I would say it's Brunson. And these performances lately are starting to eat at it a little bit. But RJ, it's like you said, like, okay, Julius is playing well. Brunson's not playing well. No one else is playing well. The coach is not playing IQ enough. We need you to step up, RJ. And it's just like the frustration of, you're just doing the same. You're doing the things again that we've told you to stop doing. And I think that is where that is coming from. It's like, dog, why are we here? Like, why are we here again? And especially because you get the tease of like before the migraines, he was doing, it wasn't even about the shot making. It was the decision making. He did everything right. And it was like, oh, he's really picked up where we left. Because there's a lot of skepticism in the summer. Like, oh, that was just an 11-game stretch. That doesn't matter. When he picked up where he left off, it was like, okay, we're on to something. But as I say all the time, happy to see equals reality minus expectation. So I don't think it's not his fault we lost. Like you said, 9 of 39 from three, losing the rebounding battle, losing the offensive rebounding battle, missing 10 free throws. Quentin Grimes, 1 shot. 2 points. I think, but I just think that's why you saw that today. It's just like a buildup of frustration from the general fan base at large who doesn't, traffic in Knicks for clicks and negative garbage. So
yeah, I think that's totally fair. And again, I don't want to exonerate RJ. RJ was absolutely a reason we lost the game yesterday. If 4 things is what I would, honestly 5. Jalen Brunson's poor play is 1. RJ Barrett's poor play is 2. The rebounding is 3. The defense is 4. Immanuel Quickley not getting enough minutes is 5. Those are the 5 reasons right there that the Knicks lost yesterday. But those are 5 reasons. A lot went wrong is what I'm trying to point out. And that to me is just, especially in a building, and I feel like a lot of this is why I think that it's important to know the history of the game. The Knicks historically don't play well in Utah. It's just a hard place. It's a high altitude. It's across the country. They're there once a year. And this is not an excuse, but to see that the Knicks played so poorly yesterday, like literally everything went wrong except for Julius Randle. When that's happening, it's kind of like, okay, this is just one of those, you can kind of chalk it up and throw away the game tape, right? And we're willing to throw away the game tape for Jalen Brunson because he absolutely deserves to have an off night. We're willing to throw away the game tape on so many other things, but with RJ Barrett, it's more like, oh, well, this is the expectation for him now. We're expecting him to play bad games. When he does have it, we're going to hammer him every single time. And if that's where we're at in his career, that is fine. He has had 300 games to show us that he is a different basketball player than the one that we saw last night. More often than not, we are seeing that he is the 3 for 16 guy and not the 11 for 16 guy. And it's frustrating. It's hard to deal with, but I was just trying my best. And I guess coming from me as a vehement RJ Barrett stan, coming from me, I was just trying to point out, like, listen, so many other things went wrong. There are other troubling trends that, in my opinion, are more troubling than what we saw from RJ Barrett last night. But again, because of the 4.5 years of frustration, nobody was trying to hear that. And that's fair. But at the end of the day, I'm going to do my best to try to bring levity and try to bring context into every discussion.
And I honestly, that is a great segue to my vibe check. For me, the vibes are reactionary. And I'll say, so a friend of mine, his name is Roger Anderson. He told me, his cousin Allie is one of my close friends. Allie told me that his cousin told him, like, if you get too high or too low, you ain't been in the game long enough. Because if you've watched sports long enough, you realize there are going to be highs and lows. There are going to be peaks and valleys. And we can, just like a win doesn't mean that everything is going great, a loss doesn't mean that the sky is falling. But the reactions and the things that I like I understand why you tweeted what you tweeted, because it's like, why are we piling on RJ? This being my second year in Knicks Film School, the biggest takeaway from our first year was like, there's a difference when you're watching the game, you're just watching the game as a fan, like, you watch the Knicks, whatever. But when you watch the game, you have to come up with content to discuss the games all the time, and you realize that these highs and lows, like, I realized, like, this can be exhausting. And this is for me, I try to stay in the middle, but like, there are people on the timeline, like you say, the sky is falling, and the vibes are just like last year, and we're 3 games better than last year, despite having arguably the toughest schedule in the league to start. I think 12 of our first 34 games are at home. So I just caution everybody, like, relax, to borrow a phrase from the quarterback of the New York Jets, like RELAX. But I realized that the extreme output that comes out, it comes from 2 places. One, you are someone who has bought all into what this front office is doing and what this team is doing, and this is you showing your frustration, or you're someone who never bought into what the front office is doing and never bought into the head coach, and you're just using this as a means to like to affirm your agenda. Like, see, I told you, Leon ain't it. I told you Tibbs needs to be fired or what have you, right? And you can't live life that way, and you shouldn't watch sports that way. Like, I know they say we shouldn't tell people how to fan. We can give guidelines though. Like, it can't be that this whole thing is terrible. We need to blow it up because we lost to the Utah Jazz on a Wednesday night in December. It can't be that way. But the same way how it can't be orange and blue skies, as some guy on a 4-letter network says, when we win, 5 in a row or 4 in a row, right? Just try and take a look at the big picture. And again, if you think the front office sucks and you think the coach sucks, everything I'm saying to you, or if you think RJ sucks or Brunson is a ball hog or Randall is a hothead and whatever, none of what I'm saying is going to matter to you. So vaya con Dios. But for everyone else who lives in the middle, who actually appreciates this nuance and context and takes a look at the big picture, let's ask yourself this. Do you believe this team is moving in the right direction? And not from a game to game, not from Wednesday night to Friday night, not from the first week of December to the second week of December. Do you think from where this administration started to where it is now, do you think they're moving in the right direction? And do you trust them to continue to move in the right direction? Because I heard you said yesterday on the post game, like, this front office is smart. Like, they are clearly intelligent. Like, do they bat 1,000? No, nobody does. But if you believe in that, then just stay the course. And you know what? I've also come to realize, and I'll wrap up after this, that, a lot of our fan base has never seen us be this good for this long. So they don't necessarily know how to deal with, like, and again, I'm excluding the people that have been out on this front office from day one, but those people who have the only good Knicks teams you've seen were the random 54 win team, and then those teams that won between like 39 and 42 games, like a 7 seed or 60 or what have you. Listen, man, I grew up watching the Knicks roll out of bed and make the playoffs. Like, I'm from the era where winning a first round series was fait accompli. Like, the Knicks were never going to go out in the first round. Like, when they lost in the first round of 2001 to Toronto, that's when I knew this was the beginning of the end. And guess what? There were days where Patrick Ewing did not play well. There were days when Pat Riley made shaky decisions. There were days when Jeff Van Gundy made shaky decisions. There were days where John Starks could have hit the broadside of a barn. There were days where we just didn't play well. But yes, there are people that, listen, Patrick Ewing got booed. The New York Post would say things and, have terrible headlines and back page or whatever. But I mean, me, 12-year-old, 13-year-old Shawn, always felt like, but hey, we have a good team. We're moving in the right direction. So if you feel that way, then try not to get too high or too low, because there's going to be, like, no one kicks ass all the time. Nobody. I saw on Twitter, someone said, listen, the Knicks franchise record for wins are 60, which means 22 times in their best season ever, they lost 22 times. And we're not as good as that team. So there's going to be more of these. Just try to stay in the middle. Just try to stay in the middle. Like, don't get too high, don't get too low, and don't let outside forces influence how you view the team. How you view the team is how you view the team.
Yeah, couldn't have said that one any better. Don't get too high, don't get too low on the team, on a player, on anything. This team, again, if a good litmus test, especially since we've been watching, because I've been watching this team every year for, I want to say since I was 13 years old. So I got a little while on the Knicks. So this team here, we play 82 games this year, and there's no game where I'm like, the Knicks do not have a shot to win. Now, some games turn out that the Knicks didn't actually have a shot to win, like the Milwaukee Bucks games, for example. But I don't, like, there's an angle every single time for this team to come out and win. So while last night was a really rough one for us, and I'm sorry, by the time you listen to this, if you're listening to it on the day it drops, Wednesday night was a really rough night for The New York Knicks, it's part of the season, 82 games in. I know we feel like the sky is falling. We've only played 23 of 82 games. There are 59 more to go. So we have a lot more basketball to see, and hopefully, not even hopefully, just you can expect to see a lot more good basketball because the Knicks are a good team.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. All right, so now let's move on to shout outs. So Mensa, I will defer to you if you'd like to go first. Who would you like to shout out this week?
So this week, I just want to stay in the vein of the Utah game specifically. I want to shout out one Thomas Thibodeau because Tom Thibodeau is a guy that I myself am not his biggest supporter. Most people, well, I don't even know about most people, but he has a sizable segment of people who want him fired. One thing that I want to shout him out because last night, everything that could go wrong, except for Julius Randle, did go wrong, and we lost that game by 4 points. That is a testament to Tom Thibodeau being such a steady provider of guidance, of guidelines, of principles for this team, so that even when we are shooting dog shit, when we are not stopping anybody, we still have a chance to win the game. We mounted a fake comeback, a patented Knicks fake comeback, but it's just, to me, it's a testament to what Tom Thibodeau is doing does work. Again, and I just went on a rant about how for the past 4 games, our defense has been sliced and diced. We haven't been able to get stops. And a lot of that, and of course, I have a lot of frustration with Tom Thibodeau with not playing Immanuel Quickley. But at the same time, the front office did give him too many guys, and he does have too many mouths to feed. So it's kind of difficult for him to balance that. And I will give him grace. But I do want us to acknowledge the fact that this was a team, and what Andrew said on the post game really rung true with me. You pick any other coach over the last 10 years, that game by the third quarter when we're down, I think, 5? And as soon as we get down, I think as many as 16 or however many we got down, the Knicks would have rolled over. It would have been over. We would not have had any reason to watch the game after that point because we would have been watching Deuce McBride close out the game. The game would have been over. We watched a team where David Fizdale was down, I forget how many points. I'll never forget that graphic.
100 to 62.
Okay, and he's smiling, down 38. Like, that's not Tom Thibodeau. And, okay, a lot of people might think that, oh, well, the floor, the bar's on the floor and all those fun things. But you do have to give a man credit for at least providing some sort of stability to a team that it's about to go through a very rough stretch of basketball games. And I know that even though we may not come out on the other side of this thing, there's a chance that we come out 3-7. There's a chance we come out 2-8. There's also a chance we come out 7-3, 8-2. There's a chance that the Knicks can do that. And a lot of that is because I do not watch the New York Knicks play basketball and think that we are underprepared. Every night, I know we are prepared to play, and that means a lot to me, especially considering where this team has come from to where it is now. A lot of that rests on the shoulders of Tom Thibodeau. So this week, I want to give him my shout out because I think that while Mitchell Robinson is down, while Quentin Grimes is not in the starting lineup, I still have faith the New York Knicks can win basketball games, and a lot of that is because of Tom Thibodeau's preparation as a head coach.
Well said, Mensa. Yeah, the floor, Tom Thibodeau, you will always have a high floor. Like, you will shoot, like the worst season this man has had has been 37-45. That was the worst season in 4 years. So, no, I'm with you 100%. But it's actually very interesting that you picked him. I'll tell you why in a second. My shout out goes to, and this may surprise some people after what happened yesterday, goes to Quentin Grimes. And my shout out to Quentin Grimes is because in the starting lineup, Quentin Grimes was shooting 36% from the field, 42% from 2, 35% from 3, and a true shooting percentage of 50%. Since moving to the bench, 52% from the field, 63% on 2s, 47% from 3, and a 66 true shooting percentage. And that includes last night's game where he scored 2 more points than I did on 1 of 4 shooting. So it's nice to see. I mean, obviously, the 3-game sample size for 2 to 3 games, he played well. He looked more comfortable. He looked more attacking. He looked to get more involved for at least those 2 games. Hopefully, he can carry this over. This can carry over to when he goes back to the starting lineup, because I believe at some point he's going back into the starting lineup. And when he goes back in the starting lineup, it will then be a testament to the head coach and the 3 high usage players on the team to make sure that he gets involved and he feels empowered to do things to do things that he can to do well offensively. And listen, and also now I'm not giving a complete pass, because when he was complaining, I looked it up. He was shooting, I believe it was 27% on open threes. Where 27%. So we can't have that. Like you said earlier, it's not Tom Thibodeau's fault the Knicks went 9-39 from 3. Like you have open shots, hit them. But I'm glad to see that that change put a little spark in him. I saw people calling it demotion. I don't believe it's a demotion per se. I believe it's putting a player in the best position to succeed. It's not how you start, it's how you finish. Listen, Jericho Simpson started the last 2 games. He played 18 minutes last night. So it's not about starting and finishing and that's a demotion. It's about being put in the position to succeed. And for at least the first 2 games, he's been successful.
Yeah, that was a curveball, but I think it's a great shout out, because Quentin Grimes basically bet on himself, where everybody thought that he was going, he was having a bad season around the 20-game mark. The Knicks took him out of the starting lineup, and then he responded about as well as any basketball player could have responded. So shout out to Quentin Grimes. Last night was a bad game, but it was a bad game for everybody. So we're probably I'm at the point where I'm throwing out the tape for everybody last night. Wash, rinse, repeat. Let's try again on Friday against the Suns. So yeah, with that being said, Quentin Grimes has been awesome since we moved him to the bench, and I'm very proud of him.
That's interesting you say that throughout the tape, because that was, growing up, football and basketball, pre-social media, that's a phrase we'd hear a lot. Like the team if a team had a stinker of a game, it would be throughout the tape, forget about it, let's move on. In the social media world, in this social media age, that doesn't really happen. When we see the terrible game, we never throw out the tape. We analyze it, we dissect it, we pour over it every single day. But sometimes you gotta look at it and say, like, you know what? Like, honestly, for me, that was the Bucks game. Like when they shot 70% from 3. Like, it's like, no. Like, and people were just like, oh, it's because shots are open. Like, no. Nobody shoots 70% on open shots. Like, nobody. So, like, that one, I was like, all right, just chalk that up, whatever. But to your point, it's now been 4 games in a row where the team has been playing above its offensive level, and that's something we have to clean up. And that's a good segue to our next segment, because if we have shout outs, we also have to ask why people are being unserious. And I'll start this time. And so my why so unserious is actually a bit of a preemptive one, because I don't think he's been unserious, but there is a potential for unseriousness. And it's for the head coach of the New York Knicks, Tom Thibodeau. Why do I say that? Okay. We have lost I'm going to say it. We have lost our most valuable player. Mitchell Robinson is not our best player, but he's our most valuable player. Because, and I said this in the summer, and I've said this to anyone who will listen, the New York Knicks are primarily built around the strengths and weaknesses of Mitchell Robinson on both sides of the ball. Mensa, you touched on it, like the offensive rebound, like the rim protection on defense, the offensive rebounding on offense. He's gone for 2 months. I'm not asking him to draw up a brand new offense, because that's not realistic in the middle of the season, but we need rent due Tibbs at some point. Like we're gonna need running more offense through our Hartenstein. We're gonna need better. We can't have as Sean Geddes like to say, subs on auto. We need better rotations. We need to recognize, like, you know what, maybe Grimes shouldn't be playing these minutes. Maybe shouldn't be playing these minutes. We're gonna need that. We're gonna need adjustments. We're gonna make changes, and we know that he has the ability to do so. But we also know that he waits until the absolute last freaking second to do it because he believes in what he believes in. He knows what works. So I'm not saying he's unserious now because, again, Tom Thibodeau cannot make this team hit 10 free throws. Tom Thibodeau cannot make this team shoot better than 9 from 39 from 3. Tom Thibodeau cannot but what Tom Thibodeau can do is stop yanking IQ's minutes around. And I want to give a shout out to Jeff from the High Hand Theory in the Strickland, who had a really good rant on Twitter today. And he was like, this is 3 years in a row with the beginning of the season, Tom Thibodeau has been funny with his minutes. And what's the reason? That's why when people say it's because of politics, because they don't want to give him an extension, I was like, they were doing this 2 years ago. and you know, we've been saying this for years. Like, IQ needs more minutes. He needs more minutes. Like you said you said it yourself in the post game. Like, can Jalen Brunson play 34 minutes and give those minutes to Quickley? And then Quickley can play 22, 23 instead of 18? Like, so listen, we are. This is going to be daunting. This is going to be the most daunting stretch of the season. After that, the schedule does get easier. But we are going to need everybody to be flexible in these next 10 games, and we're going to need everyone to step up, and that includes the head coach. So I'm not saying he's unserious now, but it's a preemptive unserious because there's some signs of unseriousness, especially with the minutes for IQ. Especially with the rotations. And again, I'm not saying those are the reasons why we lost yesterday. I'm not saying that's the reason why we gave up 4,900 threes to Milwaukee, but we know that the Knicks are in a bit of a rough stretch, and it can't necessarily be like, all right, we're just going to do what we've always done and expect it to work, especially with us losing our most valuable player.
Yeah. I'm very happy that you gave Tom Thibodeau your why so unserious, because it kind of encapsulates the Tom Thibodeau experience in general. Because I give him a shout out because he does some things really well, and you give him a why so unserious because there are some things that are not necessarily the best from Tom Thibodeau. And I just want to be very upfront about this. Tom Thibodeau is extremely unserious for only giving Immanuel Quickley 24 minutes a game to start the season. It's just not. It's not what you want, especially when he was your third best player last year. You can't say that a player, has to earn their minutes, and then when a player like Immanuel Quickley earns his minutes, you cut them. It doesn't make any sense, and I think that's very unserious, which actually is a perfect tie into my unserious, because I'm going to give the front office my why so unserious. It's not that I don't believe in these guys. It's not that I think that they're doing a disservice to the team, but they have done a disservice to Immanuel Quickley. And that, for me, is enough to give you a why so unserious. We have Fred Katz putting out reports that there's rumblings that guys aren't the happiest. It's not necessarily like they're losing the locker room or anything, but not everybody's thrilled with their role. Josh Hart, vocal about it. Not Immanuel Quickley. Quentin Grimes, vocal about it. And we're seeing that there are just too many mouths to feed. And when we signed Dante DiVincenzo, everybody was so sure that the consolidation trade was coming, because you had to make a consolidation trade, because when you took out your pencil and you wrote on a napkin and you tried to do all the math, you realized that somebody who is a good basketball player is going to get shorted. Well, it turns out basically everybody's getting shorted. Quentin Grimes isn't getting his touches. Dante DiVincenzo is playing less minutes this year than he played last year. Immanuel Quickley playing less minutes this year than he played last year. And these guys are all good basketball players who deserve prominent roles on any NBA team. So for the front office to have rolled into the season and just too many good players isn't a bad thing. Yeah, not necessarily a bad thing, but it's turning out to be a problem where you have a guy in his contract season, a contract year for him, is not getting the minutes he needs. We're not seeing, the Jeff rant was great. Shout out to the Hot Hand Theory. They're doing great stuff over there. Even though he was on the Strickland when he gave this rant, like Immanuel Quickley having a line like 15-1-1. It's not Immanuel Quickley stuff at all. He is a rebounds and assist guy through and through. He is a detail-oriented defender. He's a free safety. This guy, he's not necessarily Ed Reed, but he might be Troy Polamalu, on defense. He's really good. And we're starting to see that he's kind of prioritizing the shooting, and all of his numbers are up. All of his numbers are basically career highs for him, and we're just not getting him the minutes. And for the front office to have rolled into this, you can blame Tom Thibodeau for it, and that will be fair because he's the one who has to distribute the minutes. But the front office handpicked Tom Thibodeau, and our president of basketball operations used to represent Tom Thibodeau. These guys know Tibbs. And I understand it, 1-to-1, DiVincenzo over Obi Toppin is a good thing. We're not doing worse because of that trade. Well, not trade, but because of the trade-off, I would say. Mm-hmm. Also, it's just not, we need to see consolidation soon because Immanuel Quickley doesn't play. And that's actually this week what brought me to this conclusion is because not only did Mitchell Robinson miss a game, but also Immanuel Quickley missed a game. And then it just seemed like guys played more free, right? The defense was still bad. They still gave up 130 points, but they also scored 136 points. So guys played more freely. You got to see, even though DiVincenzo didn't take too many shots with the starting unit, he did have 4 rebounds and 5 assists in that Toronto game. Guys, a guy like Quentin Grimes was able to step up into a role and play really well. So I think that the front office needs to figure it out because to have compiled this much talent at this position, all these guys are basically 6'4" and under guards that need minutes at the 1 or the 2, even a little bit at the 3 if you're counting Josh Hart. It's just not what you want, and we need to see change soon. I'm not calling for a trade, but I am saying that this plan was half-baked because we're waiting for eventually, but before we get to eventually, we have the meantime. In the meantime, we are seeing that there's a minutes crunch and it's affecting guys' play on the court.
Yeah, no, all very fair and valid points. So the funny thing is I approached this season and I realized it, I think during the preseason game, or very early in the season, like this was going to be a bridge year because this team was not going to win the championship, but this team was good enough to make the playoffs. And, like you said earlier, if everything falls into place, they can make an ECF run. But likely their ceiling is a second round exit, likely, which will be the exact same thing as last year. But, at least it's not a step back, like, going from the we here season to the thumbs down season. So I knew that, and that's because I knew that, again, happiness equals reality minus expectations. It makes it easier to stomach this year, the things that have happened. But at the same time, I knew it would be an issue. I didn't think it would be this much of an issue, like the too many guys. I thought we had a solid 9. It looks like we have more than a solid 9, and 9 isn't, and 9 rotations. The minutes for 9 rotation spots isn't enough. I will say that this is a good problem to have because I remember when we had to decide between when those minutes were going to Langston Galloway and Damian Dotson and Lance Thomas. And not to disparage those guys as NBA players, but I mean, just look at our record. We weren't very good. A move will be made. I don't think it will be made now because I don't think there's anything that's to sound the alarm, but I think there will be I think a move will be made. I don't know what it is. It better not be it's not gonna be for DeMar DeRozan. So anyone who wants that one, I will look at you. I will side eye you to the white meat. And this doesn't help anything. Like you can't say like, oh, we need Immanuel Quickley needs more minutes and more shots. Let's bring in this high usage guy, right? So yeah, like the front office has to take some blame for this. Like they had brought in a lot of guys and there isn't enough minutes because of the logjam. Although I will say, I do think they figured, well, unfortunately, there may be an injury because, Grimes was hurt for extended period of time last year. RJ missed some games. Brunson missed some games. And this year, for the most part, the one place where we really couldn't afford to have an injury, that's where we got the injury. Like the long-term injury, that's where we got it. So there you go. All right. So that is all for today. Mensa, any last words before we wrap up and get out of here?
No, I feel like I said it all. It's kind of good, just being two guys on the pod. You get a lot of runway to say things. I guess I'll just close it out by saying that this next 2 weeks of the season will pretty much decide what we do in the month of January. Like it will decide whether or not the front office will be more urgent or if they'll kind of wait and take the same wait and see approach they're taking to basically every move. 10 games, I think 7 on the road, all against teams above 500. We need to see this team respond in a way that is becoming of the New York Knicks that we have come to love. A team that works hard, a team that wins the possession battle, a team that tries on defense, and a team that hits their threes, please. Can we do that? I'd like to see more Immanuel Quickley minutes. Not really one for a ball prediction right now, other than, no ball predictions. I just want to see the New York Knicks play well. And it starts on Friday today against the Phoenix Suns. So let's see what we got.
Oh, we're supposed to do bold predictions. I knew I forgot it. So, okay, but you know what? You have no bold prediction. That is fine. I will make a bold prediction. The New York Knicks, no, I can't do that because we're recording next week. All right, so our next we have at, oh, good God, at Phoenix, at the Clippers, at the Lakers, Phoenix, and then the Clippers is a back-to-back at the Lakers, then home not home, but for all intents and purposes, then we're at Brooklyn, which means they'll be sleeping in their own beds. Okay. So, all right. So Phoenix to LA teams and Brooklyn. I think the Knicks my bold prediction is that the Knicks will go 2-2. I think they'll beat the Lakers. And I think they'll beat the Nets. And I think they're going to lose to the Suns and the Clippers. So I think it's going to happen. And I'd say they're going to beat the Lakers because they're going to be pissed because, of course, the Lakers have chosen the night we play them to unveil their in-season tournament championship banner. So I was like, all right, see the vibes, whatever. But yes, that's my bold prediction. The Knicks will go 2-2 in these next 4 games. They will beat the Lakers and beat the Nets. That's my bold prediction. That's my bold prediction. What they do against Phoenix, they're going to lose to the Clippers. Back-to-back, 4th game in 5 nights on the road. Like, they're going to be in LA Friday night doing LA things. Saturday, chalk that joint up. All right. So that's our bold prediction segment. And so before we wrap up, I do want to take a minute or two to acknowledge somebody. It's a bit, and it's a little melancholy. On Monday, I received news that my former coworker and friend Kevin Cronin passed away. He had just turned 39. He had just turned 39 on November 27th. I met Kevin when I used to work at Media Edge CIA, an ad agency in New York. We both worked an AT&T account. But what really bonded us together was that Kevin you will not have found a bigger Knicks fan than Kevin Cronin. And me being a Knicks fan, we talk basketball all the time. We had a team that our company sponsored a team that played in the New York Urban Professional Basketball League. I played in that team with him and a bunch of other guys, James Albert, Jim, I forget James' last name, Evan Meekins. I'm blanking on names, but we played. We won league champion. We won titles in that game together. Kevin Cronin was responsible for one of the best days of my athletic life because in one of those seasons in the playoffs, we were down 20 to this team that we had no business losing to. We were better than them, but we just didn't play well. But we fought back, we chipped away, and we won the game on a bank shot 3. Top of the key by Kevin, and we all ran and mobbed him and jumped up and down. Kevin Cronin is the reason why I tore my Achilles in 2012, because even though I tore it on a Saturday night strolling at my frat brother's engagement party, this injury started on the Monday because He was playing this 3-on-3 tournament and they were a man down. They needed somebody. So at 5 o'clock, it's like, yo, dude, can you play? And I was like, for you, anything. And I ran home to Harlem, got my stuff, took the train back to the gym. I think they were playing at John Jay. I didn't stretch. I went, I played. I pulled both my calf muscles playing that game. And then we had our regular game two nights later, and with our team, the Media Edge team, and we were shorthanded, so everyone had to play all there was 20, I think it was there were like 15-minute halves, so I had to play all 30 minutes and I was fine. Saturday, boom, tore my Achilles because of Kevin Cronin. But you know what? No regrets at all. And last thing I'll say is Kevin Cronin is the reason why I'm a Knicks season ticket holder, because his father has had season tickets for well over 30 years, maybe even close to 35 years. And he told me the story, like they started way up in the nosebleeds, and little by little, years on, they moved down, till they end up getting like really good seats. And once a year, Kevin, if his father couldn't make it, or his brother couldn't make it, or he couldn't get someone to go, he would say, hey, you want to come with me to the game? Absolutely. And I did. And that's when he told me a story about how he had the tickets for so long. And I was like, that's amazing that his father is something that his father did that he's going to be able to pass on to his sons. And I have season tickets now because I want my son, Zakovic H, to be able to have Knicks season tickets and go to games at a young age and have him throughout his life. So, the news is very tough, but Kevin, we love you. We miss you. And again, and he was a Mets fan too, Mensa. You'll never find a bigger fan of the Knicks than Kevin. So I say to everyone, reach out to your loved ones, love on your loved ones. If there's someone that you hadn't seen in a while, reach out to them. Oh, actually, the last thing I'll say is it's ironic that the last time I saw Kevin Cronin was at a Knicks game. My brother had access to a suite for the preseason game. I believe they're playing the Wizards, and a couple of people had dropped out. So I was like, let me just call Kevin. Like, I was like, I don't know if Kevin can make it, but I'll call Kevin. He made it. He came. We hung out. We watched the game. And ironically, like I texted him like 2 weeks ago. I was like, hey, we need to get a beer and hang out. He's like, yeah, we're gonna do that. We're definitely going to do that soon. So rest in peace to Kevin Cronin. He will be missed. He leaves behind a wife and 2 young boys, which is so heartbreaking. But I just wanted to take a few minutes to acknowledge him because the Knicks community is a family, and we lost a very, very, very good member of the Knicks fan community this week. So Kevin, love you, man. Rest in peace. And with that, that is Casual Friday. Thanks to Mensa for joining me today. Make sure you subscribe to the Knicks Film School podcast. I mean, if you're listening now, you're not a subscriber, I don't know what you're doing. Please leave us a 5-star review on iTunes. And if it's less than 5 stars, keep it to yourself. We need 5 stars, bro. We need 5 stars, bro. We need 5 stars. If you're not a patron, you should join a Patreon. Then that way you have access to our playback watch parties. Although, because playback wants to be stupid and now we can't, you have to have league pass. But make sure you join us on YouTube for our watch. Make sure you join us on YouTube for our watch alongs. Check out math class. Check out study hall. Study hall will be back soon. And I think that's really what's going on right now. So for Mr. Smith, I am Sean for W. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Knicks Nation, let's ride.